Do I really need a camera in 2023, or will my phone do instead? Hi, and a very warm welcome to episode 165, blimey, of the Photography Explained podcast. I'm your host, Rick, and in each episode, I will try to explain one photographic thing to you in plain English in less than 27 minutes-ish without the irrelevant details. I'm a professionally qualified photographer based in England with a lifetime of photographic experience, which I share with you in my podcast. Okay, here is the answery bit. I need a camera in 2023. I still prefer taking photos with my camera rather than taking photos with my phone. My phone is used for snaps, behind the scenes stuff, videos, and to make phone calls and do other stuff, and that's obviously lots of other stuff. But for taking real photos, yes, I am using air quotes on the video. You can't see them on the audio, obviously. You can't beat the experience of taking photos with a camera, and I can't take the photos that I need to with my phone. I cannot get the quality of photos with my phone that I get with my camera. So, I need a camera in 2023. But, do you need a camera in 2023, dear listener? Well, why not let me know? And if your answer's no, that's fine, but let me know what you think. That's after you've listened to this episode, of course, not before. Oh no. That was the answer bit. I'm going to get straight into this one with 5 reasons why I need a camera in 2023. This is 5 things for us all to think about, and the counter-argument against each reason, each thing. Yep, I'm going to include that. I'm going to argue against myself here. Well, to be honest with you, I do this all the time in my head anyway, so it's nothing new to me, it's just new to you. Number 1, I love taking photos with my camera. Now, I can't argue with this. This is just how I feel. I still love taking photos with my camera. With my camera, taking photos is a considered, deliberate thing. Taking photos with my camera helps me create the best photo I can every time, whether for a client or just for little old me. I take photos using the viewfinder. That's an optical viewfinder, not an electronic viewfinder, and the LCD screen on the back of my camera. I flick-flack between the two. Now, is flick-flack an actual term? I'm not sure. My camera is usually mounted on a tripod, and this is how I get the best composed, most technically correct photos possible. And this saves me time when I'm processing my photos. Now, I can't do this with my phone. Well, I could do, but it wouldn't be the same. I won't have the optical viewfinder, which I still find incredibly useful, as well as the LCD screen. So I can't get the image captures with my phone that I can with my camera. And that, not for the work I do anyway, and I have proved this in the past, and I'll come on to that again. If I've got it in my scripts, I'm thinking now that I haven't, so I need to remember to add that a bit. I'll do an ad-lib later. My phone, it's fine for quick photos, snaps if you like, personal stuff, informal stuff. I don't know, and photos are things as a reminder, which is it's dead handy, of course it is. But I don't like holding my phone in front of me and taking photos. I never have. And my iPhone, it's got all the ergonomics of a slippery eel. Now, I am talking about an iPhone XS here. It was the one that the issue that was had curvy everything, so you've got nothing to hold on to. I believe that the new iPhone 14 and 15 are... apologies if you don't use an iPhone, but I do, and I talk about what I do. So like I was saying, the iPhone 14 and 15 look to have a bit more grippiness about them, so I'm looking forward to getting my long overdue upgrade. But no, the ergonomics of my phone, they mean I don't enjoy taking photos with my phone, and I just don't. I can't get the best compositions for the stuff I photograph, and I don't have the control over the exposure and focus and all the other stuff, and I'll come on to that. I've written down here, I was going to say that maybe I need to take more photos with my phone on a tripod, but, well, that's completely defeating the convenience of the phone, isn't it? If I do this, I might as well just stick with my camera. But, of course, having a phone is dead handy. Of course it is. So there's your counter-argument. It's always with you. It's dead handy. And as the cliche goes, the best camera you have is the one that's with you. And my Canon 6D isn't always with me, but my phone pretty much always is. Number 2, the image quality I get with my camera. My Canon 6D, it captures photos with excellent image quality. My iPhone captures photos with excellent image quality as well. But it's still not as good as with my Canon 6D in my opinion, and that's not for what I need the photos that I create. Not for what I need for the photos that I create. I said that sentence much better second time. It didn't make sense the first time, did it? I mean, of course, my Canon 6D, it's got a larger camera sensor than my phone. Well, you'd expect so, right, wouldn't you? So it's not a fair comparison, really, is it? A camera in a phone to a camera. I think it's a harsh comparison to make on the best of times. But interestingly enough, my Canon 6D, it's got a 20 megapixel sensor. That's 20 million pixels. My iPhone XS has got my notes say, sorry, no, it's all right. My iPhone XS has a 12 megapixel camera. And that's remarkable, a phone in a camera. And that was dreadful. I'm going to keep that in. And that's remarkable. A camera in a phone with a 12 megapixel camera. Oh, dear me. But the iPhone 14 Pro, which I'm looking at at the moment, that's got a whopping 48 megapixel camera. That's 48 megapixels in a phone. It's just, it's mind-blowing. It's amazing. I mean, I know megapixels, they're only part of the story, but as you can see, the transformation in 4 years or so from an iPhone XS to an iPhone 14, it's absolutely remarkable. Yeah, sure, a higher resolution helps you to get a higher resolution does not mean a better photo. It helps you to get a better photo, but it doesn't guarantee it. It's only part of the story. My Canon 6D, it's got excellent low-light image capture performance. My iPhone doesn't. But I know year after year the gap's closing, but the sheer larger sensor and the quality of the sensor on the Canon 6D, it helps me to capture lots of detail in the shadows with minimal noise. Low-light performance, it's really important to me because I'm always having to capture the darks and the shadows in an interior and on exterior photos of a building. And my phone, it doesn't capture the same detail in the shadows to the same level as my camera. And why are we expecting them to? That's the thing, isn't it? It's a phone with a camera in it. Having said that, on the latest phones, well, that's one for me to work out, isn't it? How much the tech has evolved, and I'll get onto that in a bit. Footnote here, not on the script. I've said before that the Canon 6D has excellent low-light image, and a number of people actually said, no, it doesn't. It's not that good at all, because these cameras are much, much better. But I don't agree. I think my Canon 6D gives me great low-light performance. Maybe it's just because of the way I'm using it. I don't know. Sorry, brief digression there. Number 3, why I need control of what's going on. Yeah, the tech I use in my Canon 6D, it's built into the camera and it helps me take the best images I can. Now, I set the camera up to take the best photos that I can, and I use the tools within the camera to get the best images that I can. And then I do all the processing in Lightroom to the raw and edited files. So what, Rick? Well, this is the point here. With a phone, the tech is all about doing a lot of this work for you. Not necessarily all of it, but it's doing all the image capture stuff, and sure, it gives you great results, but you're getting what you're given. It's what the phone and the tech determine is the best for every photo. And I don't want this. One reason is that I want to produce images with the same look, feel and quality, and for that I need to decide what the camera is doing and how it's taking the photos. Now, I know there are apps you can get which control some of the camera settings when you're taking photos with a phone, but I'm talking about setting everything, telling the camera how to take the photo completely. That's the bit that I need. And then if we go to the image processing, like I just said, I do all the processing of all my images myself, and I take photos in RAW and I edit the RAW files in Lightroom. But with a phone, all that stuff's done for you. Yes, you can edit more yourself, but taking photos with a phone, it's more like taking photos with a JPEG, which I can do in my Canon 6D, but if I take photos using JPEG, the camera is applying editing to my photo that I don't want it to. And that's the difference. Camera phones are getting pretty close now to JPEG image capture. And it's not what I want. It's not what I want to do. I want control of what I capture and how it's processed. I need consistency with my images. So, will that change? I don't really know. Number 4, camera gear that I need and use. Now, I need to say that I'm not a big one for camera gear. I don't have a lot of camera gear. I've sold hundreds and hundreds of pounds of camera gear that I've bought and never needed. So I'm talking minimal gear that I need to do the jobs that I do, and that is the point. I've got lenses and the gear that I need for my photography. Back to the script now, by the way. And it's not a lot of gear, but sure, it's more gear than a phone. Yeah, of course it is. And this is the stuff that I use and that I need for my work, plain and simple. I need the 17mm focal length. I need that lovely sharp f8. I need the depth of field this lens gives me. And I need my tripod with the geared head, the grey card, the magic arm, the Canon batteries with their excellent battery life. See, I need my camera and all that comes with it, which for me isn't a lot, but it's the essential tools that I use every shoot. Now, what have I got for my phone? I've got a holder for my phone so I can put it on a tripod, and that's that. And I'm using that now to record me recording this episode. We still don't know why I'm doing that, do we? And I've got a microphone as well, but that's it really. Oh, sorry, I've got the mandatory case for an iPhone XS because of its slippery eel ergonomics. Number 5, finally, only 5 things, which was good. Complicated photography stuff that I love and use. I touched on this in number 4. See, there's a heap of old school photography stuff that I still need and use to take photos. And what am I talking about here? Let's just go through a few. There is a reason for this. Aperture, shutter speed, ISO, exposure triangle, white balance, back button focus, depth of field, exposure compensation, auto exposure bracketing even, raw files, memory cards, DSLR cameras, zoom lenses, interchangeable lenses, telephoto lenses, wide-angle lenses, camera batteries, etc. I should have added grey card to that list. I'm going to add it onto the script. That's the stuff that I use, basically. I mean, I could go on. There is some other stuff, but there's not a lot. And what am I talking about with this complicated photography stuff thing? Well, it's not complicated for me after all these years because I've learned it all, and you can learn it all as well. It's the stuff that I use, it's the physical stuff that I use, it's the gear, it's the camera settings, it's all those bits which you put together which help me to get the photographs that I'm taking. And as a bonus, this is what I love talking about, and actually that's what I'm going to do next. More on that in a minute. And the point is this, if you use a phone to take photos, do you worry about any of those things that I've mentioned? Well, no, you don't have to. Some of these things are available to you, and some aren't, and this is the big difference. If you've only ever used a phone to take photos, do you actually care about this complicated stuff? Do you even need to know about this complicated photography stuff? If all you've ever used to take photos is a phone, and you use the apps that come with your phone and take photos, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, only you can answer that for yourself, dear listener. I know what the answer is for me, but I don't know what the answer is for you. One for you to think about. Okay, the talky bit. I like taking photos with my camera. I don't really like taking photos with my phone. And that's the bottom line. This is how I do my photography work. This is how I've grown over the years, and I can't get the photos with my phone that I can get with my camera. And I don't think it is in the notes about proving it, but what I've done in the past is on a construction site, I took photos of it was a steel frame being built, and the steel frame was painted dark grey. And I was photographing all this metalwork being placed as a building was being built against a bright sky. It's a photographic nightmare, really. And I took some photos with my phone out of interest, and it didn't do what my camera did. It just didn't, and that is a fact. And you can tell me I'm wrong, but I'm telling you, it didn't get what my Canon 6D got in those conditions. And as that's one of my headline shots, I'm going to stick with my camera. So, and this is the next point on my script. This is almost seamless, isn't it? This is the point about cameras versus phones for photography. It depends on what you're going to do with the photos. I'm photographing a steel frame building being erected. I've got to get those dark steels against a bright sky. If you just turn up at the end and you're taking a photograph of the finished thing with your phone and you're happy with it, absolutely fine. But I need control of what my camera's doing and how I'm taking the photographs and how I'm processing them. And thankfully, I still enjoy doing this stuff. And I don't enjoy taking photos with my phone as much. And I don't know if it's an age thing, but as the tech evolves, I'm finding I'm liking taking photos with my phone, possibly even less than ever as the tech's doing more, because it's taken away from what I'm contributing to taking a photo. Now, am I just being old-fashioned here? Is this need for control old school, or is it Or is it a perfectly valid need even in 2023? See, I don't like the thought of all these decisions when I take photos being made by my phone. I want to do that myself. And there's an irony to this. The fewer of us who are using our cameras to take photos, that took me 3 goes to take fewer, by the way, the fewer of us there are, first time I got it that time, the more exclusive we'll be, and the more our photos will stand out because of what we put into the taking of every photo. Or do I have this wrong? Am I a dinosaur in denial while tech evolution takes over, making my need for a camera extinct? Now, the more I think about this, and I think about it far too much, the more I want to stick with my camera so I can decide how my photographs are taken. I want that input into my photography myself. Okay, a quick word on immediacy. When I take photos with my Canon 6D, I've got to go back to my office, import them into Lightroom, and then edit the RAW files because RAW files look rubbish straight out of camera. And when you look on your LCD screen, by the way, of a RAW photo, it's probably a JPEG preview. Work that one out. When I take photos with my phone, of course, I can view them, edit them, and share them instantly. And that's an amazing thing to be able to do, isn't it? Well, amazing it might be, but I'm not that bothered because I've learned a different way, and this is part of the difference. I've learned to do it a different way, and I'm happy with it, and it works for me. Doing it my way is immediate enough for me and the people that I work with and for. So I'm not busting a gut to get my photos on social media. I'm not taking photographs to share them. So going back to the point I made earlier, it depends what you're doing with the photos you're taking. And another relevant point, good enough. Yes, good enough. I've written blog posts about this, good enough. And on the blog post for this episode, I put a link to the blog post titled, Why We Photographers Have to Be Better Than Good Enough to Survive. What's good enough? Well, only you as a photographer can decide that. If the photos you can create with your phone are good enough for you, that's absolutely fine. Don't have a problem with that. They're not for me and what I need. And this is the thing about the world we're in. It's what we're using the photos for. This will determine what good enough is for each and every one of us. And I'm expecting that year on year, more and more people will take photos with phones rather than with cameras. And you might end up with a small group of people like me still using cameras and still working the way that we have done. I don't know. Will the phones take over? Probably. Don't know when. But the technology is developing so rapidly, it's impossible to say. But it doesn't change the fact that when I'm taking photos, I'm taking the photo, I'm deciding what I'm doing with it and not the machine. Yeah, let's stick with cameras then, because that's what I'm going to do. This doesn't mean that you automatically need a professional camera. No, it doesn't. If you want a camera, buy the best camera you can, but there are different quality levels, of course there are. So buy the best camera. Now, mirrorless cameras are becoming more popular and are gradually replacing DSLR cameras, so mirrorless is probably the way to go, and at some point I'm going to have to move over to mirrorless from DSLRs. Get the camera that's right for you, get out there and use it and learn how to use it. But let's not forget, when I started my digital photography thing, I had a Canon EOS 350D and kit lens. Yes, my first camera was the entry-level Canon camera at the time, and that's with a crop sensor. And I'm using a Canon 6D now, even now in 2023. I'm still using the Canon 6D, it's an older model for sure, but it's still a great camera. It came out in 2014, so next year it's going to be 10 years old, but just because something's 10 years old doesn't mean you can't use it. We seem to have an obsession with having the brand new, latest, shiniest everything, and I'm getting less and less like that year on year. I think that's a sign that I'm getting quite old and miserable and what have you. But interesting to me, the fact I'm debating these things more and more year on year. And I've done this for a number of years now, and I've seen the gap closing year on year. This is testament to the fantastic work done by all the phone manufacturers, all those clever techie and software folky type people. What they have done is amazing. What camera manufacturers have done is amazing. So in my head, they're both amazing. Actually, my script says that now. I was just going off on one then, and this is what I've written. Phones are, quite frankly, amazing. I'm not denying that for 1 second. Smartphone cameras are amazing, but I still need a camera in 2023. And I've got a phone too, of course, I'm all right. Right, talk a bit over. What if I use a phone to take photos and not a camera? Well, it's your choice, isn't it? If you use a phone and not a camera, up to you. You might have never used a camera, so a lot of what I said you might not care about. You can get away with a lot of photography stuff using a phone without knowing all that complicated stuff. But it depends on where you want to go with your photography. If you want to improve your photography, I still believe this in 2023, you can do this better with a camera than you can with a phone. I still genuinely believe that. But I also get it that many people are happy with the camera phone. That's the one device they already have, and that's fine. It's down to personal choice, what you want to do and where you want to go with your photography. And if the photos that you take are good enough for your needs, happy days. Job done, don't worry about it. It's not a bad thing. It's whatever you want to do. And if I think about it, I'm sure there are professional photographers out there taking photos with phones only. But I'm not one of them. Do I want to be one of them? Yeah, part of me does. There's a part of me wants to get rid of all my gear and just take my phone and take photos with it, but it's not gonna give me what I want. It won't give me the experience of taking photos, which I've already talked about, so I'm going to shut up and move on. What if I use a film camera? That one answers itself, doesn't it? But do you know what? I haven't used a film camera for a while, and I've started looking at them. Yes, I'm going to buy one, and that'll make this section a bit fuller in the future. And I can't wait. I'm excited. A new camera. Well, it's not a new camera, but it's a new camera to me. It's been a long time thinking about it since I bought myself a new camera. And I wrote in my script this will be the cheapest one I've bought as well. But having started to look at the cameras that I want, which are not surprisingly going back to when I got into photography in the 80s, say that quietly, they're not cheap, you know. I think they've got retro status and retro value now. So I was thinking I could get something for 20, 30 quid, but that's not happening. Well, I could get a broken one for 30 quid, but why would I do that? Yeah, writing this, it's reminded me that photography, it's not an exercise in using the latest AI to get the most amazing photos. Photography is an art form. Photography is drawing with light. Photography is a human thing. It's unique and individual to each and every one of us. And that's the bit I want to keep with. And if you want to go down the AI route and just use your phone, again, it's fine. That's your choice. It's just not for me. What do I do? Well, I use a full-frame Canon DSLR with L-series lenses. The L stands for luxury, would you believe? I only found that out recently. It's got a full-frame sensor, but I started with an entry-level DSLR. So, you know, I've progressed up to the full-frame thing. So I started with an entry-level crop sensor DSLR with a kit lens. I take all my photos with my camera on a tripod, and that helps my composure, and it takes away any problems I get with low light because I don't need to worry about a slow shutter speed. And I use auto bracketing to capture the dynamic range that I need to capture. And I do the same thing for my architectural photography, my construction photography, my landscape photography, travel photography. I do it all the same way and it works. Now I also have a Micro Four Thirds Olympus camera, which is for my travel stuff. And yep, it's the best travel camera I've ever owned. Not sure why I put that in there, but it is, to be fair. It might have a smaller image sensor than the Canon 6D, but it takes great photos. And just so we're clear, no, I'm not being paid to say this about Canon or Olympus. I'm a paying customer to both. One day, Rick, one day, they'll be coming for soon for you. That's Canon or Olympus, that is, not the police or anybody. So I take all my work photos with a camera. I've never issued a client a photo taken with my phone. That's never, without exception. And this is what I do. And this is what I'm going to do. I've alluded to this before. I'm due to get a phone upgrade, so I'm planning on doing a controlled experiment. Now, I'm going to get a new phone. I'm long overdue for a new phone. I've got an iPhone XS, which I've managed to run for 5 years. It still works fine. Well, it doesn't. The alarm clock doesn't sound an alarm, which is a worry, and it doesn't always charge. So it's getting to that point where it's time to replace it, and I'm going to get an iPhone 14 Pro or an iPhone 15 Pro. And when I've done that, this is what I'm thinking of doing. When I go out taking photos, I'm going to stick my phone on top of my camera. I've got a gizmo that allows me to do that. I'm pretty sure I have. If not, I'll go and get one. Sorry, you didn't need to know that, did you? Now I'm going to attach my new iPhone on top of my Canon 6D and I'm going to take the same photo of the same thing from a very slightly different viewpoint, granted. And I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to compare them and see if the photos taken with my iPhone are as good as the photos taken with my Canon. And I will share that information with you. Now, I need some time to do this, so I've scheduled an episode in for February 2024 to see how this goes. You can't rush a good job, can you? So we'll pick up on that next year. Okay, some thoughts from the last episode, Photography Explained podcast episode 164, Understanding Histograms in Photography. I just want to say this. A histogram is a graph showing you the different brightness levels from black to white in a photo. It also shows you if a photo is underexposed or overexposed. Now, I'm hoping those two lines make more sense because I think I got a bit stuck in how I was trying to describe it, but it's okay. I think I made the point, but that's it. A histogram is a graph showing you the different brightness levels from black to white in a photo, and if the photo is underexposed or overexposed. And in shock news, I'm using the histogram more than ever when I'm taking photos. So that was a nice little reminder to myself of how helpful these things are. And yep, I'm doing it more. I'm using my histogram more and more when I'm taking photos. And it's been a really positive thing. Okay, next episode. Well, how much of this complicated Oops. I got stuck on the word photography. I'll try again. How much of this complicated photography stuff do I really need to worry about? Great question, Rick. Yeah, it came up in this episode and I want to explore it and I want to explain to you why I need to worry about this stuff and how it can help you. I think that's a good idea, actually. Yeah, I want to expand on that little list and see where it takes me because all these things evolve into something else. Ask me a question. Well, if you got a question you'd like me to answer, just head over to the podcast website, photographyexplainedpodcast.com/start, where you can find out what to do. And if you want to just say hi, just say hi. Be lovely to hear from you. Anybody who takes the trouble to say hi, I will always get back to you. Okay, I'm done. Right, in another late change of script, this episode was not brought to you by a cheese and pickle sandwich and a bag of cheese and onion crisps. No, it was brought to you by a healthy beef ragu, calorie-controlled, count-on-us kind of type of thing, which I microwaved for 4 minutes, and it was very nice. A bit too many mushrooms in it for me. But it was good. It was a beef ragu with some mushrooms and other stuff in it, which I consumed before I settled down in my homemade acoustically cushioned recording emporium, which consists now of my final solution, moderately improved, of the room I'm in, plus a pillow either side, providing additional absorption. This is the optimum. This is as much as I need to do, and I'm going to stop waffling. I've been Rick McAvoy. Thanks again very much for listening to my small but perfectly formed podcast, it says here, and for giving me 27-ish minutes of your valuable time. Now, I reckon this episode will be about 25 minutes long after I've edited out the mistakes and other bad stuff. Right, there we go. Take care and stay safe. Cheers from me, Rick.